Welcome to InnerGLOW, the podcast that helps you to ditch anxiety, judgment, stress, and self-doubt, and instead embody ease, confidence, flow, abundance, and self-love. I'm your host, Bhavna Meg, mindset and energy coach, and founder of Stepping Into You. I work with individuals just like you on emotional, mental, and energetic levels to help you to fall in love with yourself and glow from the inside out. This is episode 17, the one that got away. In today's episode, we'll be sharing and talking about those romances, those past boyfriends, those past partners who you reminisce on every now and again, who you think about from time to time, wondering what if something had happened differently? What if you were still together? What if things had been different? Of course, listen all the way to the end for a wonderful way to start getting super present with what's going on in your life right now and moving into a state of gratitude for everything that has been. In my final year of university, I met a guy in a club and found myself quite attracted to him. We ended up hanging out for a little while just as mates. And after several months, started dating. He'd made the comments of, I'm not looking to be married until this age. This is the kind of person that I want to be married to. My dad has said that I should find a wife from here and all these kind of things that were quite interesting and should have been very, very early on telltale signs to not date him. But I did anyway, and we dated. And after maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 or 7 months, after a number of things had happened, realized that it wasn't something that I wanted anymore. He wasn't wanting the kind of relationship with me that I was wanting with him. And that's okay. It wasn't at the time. I was really, really angry and really pissed off and just gave him the silent treatment. And the word for it now is ghosting. So I fully ghosted him and just stopped taking his calls and stopped speaking with him, which, at the time was probably not the right way to go about it, but that's where I was at with who I was. Anyway, I've often wondered, what if I'd called him back? What if I had taken his call and had a conversation and heard him out? And then immediately after, having the conversation with myself around, well, if that, then what else might have changed in my life? For those of you who are old enough to remember or have watched the movie Sliding Doors, the lead was Gwyneth Paltrow. It is the movie that always comes into my mind when I'm having a think about what if a decision in my past had been different. In the movie Sliding Doors, Gwyneth, or her character, is in London and on her way home somewhere, on her way to an event. In one part of the movie, she actually makes the train just before the doors close on the tube. And on the other half of the movie, she misses the train. And the movie sets out the two paths that would have occurred or could have occurred in both of those circumstances if she'd made the train and if she'd missed the train. I find this a really, really interesting reflection on life itself, because what would happen if, using that analogy of sliding doors in my own life, when I find myself pondering on what if. So with this guy that I dated, the what if was always, would I have gone back to university? Would I have done all of the traveling that I did through my 20s? Would I have left the UK? Would I have left London and moved to Australia? And I find myself in a position through those what ifs, realizing that potentially, no, none of those things may have happened because my life could have been quite different. And in realizing how important and valuable those things were to me, so going back to university to do my master's degree, going back and doing a heck of a lot of study after when I had dated him, doing all of the travel that I did afterwards through my 20s with my girlfriends, with my sisters and cousins, and moving to Australia. Moving to Australia was and has been and still is one of the biggest gifts I've given to myself. And I can't imagine a life back in London. That is also to say that if I hadn't left London, I possibly couldn't imagine a life in Australia. So it works both ways. But what does that mean? Wandering back and thinking on what if something different had happened? I listened to a interview by Brené Brown. I believe she was being interviewed by Oprah, and she talked about people that don't have any regrets in life and how that's completely untrue. And I can't remember the specific words, but leading to that if you don't have regrets, you've not really lived. And I take a very, very different view to this, because if you have a life of regret, it means that you're in a space where you truly don't value where you are right now. You're really not grateful for who you are and what you are right now. And to not be in gratitude for where you are right now, you are living in the past or living in fear of or worry of what might happen in the future. So a life that's full of regrets is a life that's not in full acceptance for what is now. And I've seen and had conversations with girlfriends, and particularly where they're in relationships that are experiencing some challenge, in relationships that they wish would be more joyful. And they wish that they had done something different. These particular relationships also have fruited beautiful children. And those children are not things that they have regrets over at all, but they wish for something different in the relationship. And that in itself is a bit of a conflict, an internal emotional conflict, because to have complete appreciation and love for your children and to not change anything that they are and who they have been and who they might become, one cannot be in regret of the relationship, because your relationship has been a contribution to defining those children. In the same way, the not having a relationship, so somebody that you may have loved in the past, having gotten away or things not have worked out with them, the absence of that relationship is a contribution to the creation of what your life is right now. And to be in acceptance of that means that there are no regrets of the past, of those lost loves, because that's what needed to happen to bring you here into this moment. Before we continue with the next part of the show, if what I've shared with you today is resonating with you, leave a review. It goes a long way to help share the love with others who are going through the same things and would benefit from the tips and tools to turn on their inner glow. Another way to share the love is by making a donation at patreon.com/steppingintoyou to share your love with me and with others. The longest relationship that I've had with anything other than myself has probably been with my bank. And actually, people do say that your relationship with your bank is the longest relationship you'll have outside of your own self. My dating has been from a single date to up to about a year. So absolutely, most of my life has been me with me and exploring the dating world. And I've done a lot of dating, and there have been traits and characteristics that I absolutely adore in some of the guys that I've dated. And there have been traits and characteristics that I truly know that it's something that I don't want to have in a long-term relationship. The other aspect of reflecting back on the what ifs is perhaps identifying what it was that made you feel good, that made you feel yummy, that made you feel loved, that made you feel sexy, and acknowledging those things as things that, if you're not in a relationship, that you desire in a relationship. And if you are in a relationship, perhaps you desire more of that, or identifying how you're receiving those feelings and sensations now in the relationship that you're in, to bring you back into a state of gratitude for where you are right now. When do these what ifs usually occur? These what ifs are usually going to occur when you're feeling some sense of instability, some sense of hardship or challenge in the situation that you're in right now. And that could be with your current relationship, that could be with dating, that could be with how you're feeling about yourself. And the what ifs become ponderings of, would my life be better if I'd done that other thing and stayed with that person? If that relationship had worked out, would I have and be happier? When you start pondering, it becomes an opportunity to really reflect on what's keeping you in this stuck, challenging, or hard place. What feeling and sensations are you experiencing within yourself that are preventing you or stopping you from moving into more joy and more ease and more flow? It's when we start looking at this within ourselves that we can really start to move into more wholeness and more love, more self-love. And when we move into a place of self-love and we can give ourselves this divine, infinite self-love, when we can love ourselves in that way, everything else just feels amazing. And those what ifs will start to disappear because the way you're feeling right now could not be given away to or changed for anything. And the knowing that if something had been done differently in your past, you may not be here right now loving yourself in the way that you are currently loving yourself. Today's tip is going to be double-barreled. The first part is when you start to do that what if. What if this? What if that? What if something or another? It's the active and conscious stopping of that and writing down what it is that you're grateful for about you, how you feel about you, how you feel about your relationship or dating. So the gratitude that you have for what is happening in your life around the act of love, self-love or romantic love. Because for romantic love, when it's unattached, it's coming from a place of expansion. We already feel wholeness. We already feel an abundance of self-love. And we want to feel with our partner even more of that and create even more of that. So when you start to do that what if thinking, you're going to consciously stop yourself and write down and put pen to paper, because it is so magical. There's so much power in writing down, not typing in your phone, writing down on a piece of paper what it is that you are grateful for. The second part of today's tip is to register for the 5 steps to creating the ultimate self-love affair online masterclass, to learn the steps of how to start working at the subconscious level and the emotional level. So with your heart, to really create those feelings of self-love, to really fall in love with yourself even more deeply than you currently are. That's all from me today. Join me next week for episode 18. Plans give you hope. Thanks for joining me today, and be sure to subscribe at steppingintoyou.com/innerglow so you don't miss any glowing possibilities. And if you'd love to support InnerGLOW, you can make a donation at patreon.com/innerglow. Sending you love, hugs, and magic.